Okay, so we're doing things just a little bit differently this month. I wanted to show you the pattern that we're working with, and I'm going to have this on the desk, and I'm going to be talking through the pattern while I do it. There is a full explanation of each line of the pattern that is written, and then on the back of the pattern we talk about what happens when it doesn't work exactly how you think, and some ideas for how to kind of improv as you go through, which we might run into, because I don't always get it correct every time I'm crocheting either. So let's start at the very beginning. So pattern says magic circle 12. We'll start there. There are a couple different ways to do magic circle that I've shown in previous tutorials. So if this doesn't work for you, and I've shown it very slowly in several other tutorials. So if this way doesn't work for you, go look at previous tutorials and you can find a different way to do your magic circle. I'm working with this particular type of fuzzy yarn because it sort of matches what we're doing with our little, peeper here. But also because I want you to see what the stitches look in this type of yarn. So we're going to start with 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. I might have to get a bigger hook. 5. I'm gonna pause there and tighten. I want to have a really good grip on my circle and my tail. And you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. That way it's not flopping around on me while I'm crocheting. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I'm going to hold it like this for the last one. 12, and then go ahead and pull that all the way tight. You're going to go into your first stitch and close your magic circle with a slip stitch. Okay, there we go. Now you can see there's a couple ways to count stitches. You can either count in the holes or you can count the posts. Okay, our next instruction is to increase each of those 12 stitches so that by the end of the round we have 24. I think I'm going to pause here. I'm just going to swap this out. This is a little bit small for this yarn. I was using it on this yarn, and I swap my hook out a little. The reason we could tell that that yarn or that hook was just a little bit too small is I generally like it when you hook your yarn like this, when the yarn and the hook are about the same size. If the yarn goes over the tip of the hook, then it's a little bit small and you'll have a harder time grabbing it and getting it through. When you're doing amigurumi, typically you want your hook to be a little bit smaller than what's like recommended for the yarn, but this is a good size. You want it to be smaller because then when you stuff it, you don't have any stuffing come out. Ooh, got so much yarn over here. Okay, what we're doing here is we're adding 2 stitches to each of our previous 1 stitch spots. So we're increasing each spot. So right now we have 1, 2, 3. We're going to do that 12 times. It's gonna look really crowded. We want that because we want a flat bottom. So let's go back and count our stitches. These you can kind of see pretty clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24. Did I count that right? Let's go look again. Let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Nope. 20, 21, 22, 23. How am I off by 1? Okay, this is what happens. Improv. I'm going to pull back all the way to the next or to the last row because I think I missed a stitch. This is called frogging because it sounds like a ribbit when you ribbit. We know we had 12. We started here with 12, but let's count again to be sure. So we start, this is our first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's probably the one I missed. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. This yarn is super fun and fuzzy, but it can be a little bit difficult to work with. So that's why I want to show you what it's really like working with this kind of yarn and what to do when things go wrong. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can see how this is kind of flat across the top. These are the 2 single stitches that are left, whereas these start to bow out. That tells me I'm on the right track, that I have 2 single stitches left, and that this time I did it right. 11, and there is the final 12th stitch. This time we don't need to worry about closing our circle. We're going to go ahead and leave it like this, and we're going to move on to the next instruction, which is for the next 4. We're going to have just 24. Now what I like to do is anytime I have more than 1 in a row, so this is 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 4 rounds in a row where we're doing 24 stitches. I will make check boxes, and I will use a stitch marker so that I know when I have completed a round. So I'm going to insert my stitch marker or round marker. This way I don't necessarily have to count, but it's still good to count every stitch so you know that you've got 24 each time you go around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is a good halfway mark. Are you about halfway from where your stitch marker is? Then you're probably right on track. 13. And right here, I'm going to take that out, move my stitch marker because this will be the first stitch in my next round. Pause. Oop. Check off 1, and then begin again. I'll meet you after 3 more rounds. Okay, I'm just finishing up my final round. I've already completed 3. You can see now that we've come up a little bit more, the stitches are looking much more well defined, so you can see where you're stitching a lot easier. It's that space in between. Oh my gosh, my yarn is in such a tangle. This yarn sticks together, so it gets into such a tangle sometimes. But it's so soft. All right, and that is the final stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a little tail, move my marker, and that is the end of this. So now I'm going to show you our little example guy. This is going to be a little bit bigger just because this yarn is a little bit bigger, but you can see we've created the flat base. That's why we did 12 and why we doubled it, because it gives us a flatter base than if we start with like 6 and we start doubling right away. It'll be a little bit rounder versus when you start with more stitches like the 12 and you immediately double, you get a flatter base so that it can sit like this. Now we've built up a little, we've started this, and now we're going to see where you can see where the curve just gently starts to go in. We're going to start this curve, and we start that curve by single crocheting 10 and then doing a decrease, and we're only going to do that twice. We're only going from 24 stitches to 22 stitches. And what I like to do also when I'm doing a pattern, I like to check off where I'm at in the pattern so I know which row I'm working with. All right, so now we're going to count 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we're going to do one decrease, and we can do a decrease 2 ways. You can either go in, pull up your yarn, go in, pull up again, and then slide all the way through. That is a totally valid way to do a decrease. That's totally normal. And with this type of yarn where it's really fuzzy and it will cover all of your stitches, this will not be a very visible decrease at all, but this is a standard decrease. Or we can do something called an invisible decrease, which is what I've shown before. And that's where rather than going all the way through the stitch, we just go through the front post of the stitch, and then we put our hook through the front post of the next stitch. So you've got just the front posts of 2 stitches. You pull your yarn through those 2 posts, which can be a little difficult, you gotta watch it, and then you pull up, and that's called an invisible decrease. You can do it however you're comfortable. Just watch, because your next stitch, it looks like it might start here. It starts over here. You've taken 2 stitches away. So both of these stitches are counted in your 1 stitch that you just decreased. So your next single crochet starts on this stitch. So now we're going to start 10 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if we've been counting correctly and everything works out, these are going to be the final 2 stitches before our stitch marker. I prefer using invisible decreases, so that's what you'll see me use, but if you want to use regular decreases, you totally can. Okay, then we're going to move our stitch marker. This is the beginning of row 8. So I'm going to mark off that I completed row 7. You can do this however you want. This is just how I keep track of things. Row 8 says we're going to single crochet 9 and decrease twice. Again, we're just taking it down 2 more stitches. So same thing, only this time we're doing 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, and this time I'm going to use the regular decreases because I want to show you the difference on the outside of the finished piece. So we're going to go in and pull up, go in and pull up, come all the way through. And again, don't go into this stitch. That's part of our decrease. The next single crochet is going to be over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Then we're going to go in and pull up, go in, pull up, and pull through all 3. Okay. All right, we're starting to get that curve in. I'm so sorry I keep hitting my camera mount here. We're starting to get that curve in just gently, just a real gentle curve. Okay, I'm going to mark off that I've completed row 8, and row 9 says single crochet 8, decrease, and then single crochet 7 and decrease. And I will meet you down here. Okay, so I've just finished row 10 where I did 7 single crochets and a decrease twice. So I should have 16 stitches. Let's count and make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, we've got 16 stitches. Now, you might ask, why did we do the decreases so they were just on the sides like this? So they just decreased on the side. The reason is because the Peeper pattern is shaped after, or designed after Peeps the candy, and they are kind of more 2D where they're a little bit flatter. So this pattern is meant to look a little bit flatter. So I wanted the decreases to just be on the sides. So you get kind of this shape. It is a round shape, but it's a little bit flatter than it is wide, if that makes sense. So that's why we didn't disperse the decreases throughout so that it was a cone. I wanted them to be on the sides like that. How you place the decreases shapes the pattern. So just so you can be aware of that for next time. All right, we've got 16. We need to get down to 12. So we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease, but we're doing that pattern 4 times, and we're going to take away 4 stitches. This is our final decrease. All right, I don't have it in the pattern here. You can either pause and stuff a little bit of the body here, or you can wait and stuff it all at the end. Completely your choice. I'm going to add a little bit of stuffing to the body here. You can add it later though, it doesn't matter. Okay, now we are going to mark off that we completed that row so we know where we are. Next is a single and an increase. So what do you think happened right here? We got down to the lowest number that we're going to have, which is 12. So that's our neck. We just made our neck. So we came in as much as we're going to come in, and now we're going to start increasing and flaring out to come up for the head. So single and an increase 6 times. Get my fingers together here. 1, increase for 1. 2, 3, 4, 'That was my single. 5, and 6. There we go. And you can see it starting to. All right. That was row 12. Now we're going to do 2 and an increase. We're going to take it from 18 to 24, so we're adding 6 stitches. So 2 singles and an increase. And 6. If I had not ended up always back at my stitch marker, I would be counting at the end of each row just to ensure I had the number of stitches that I was supposed to have. But when you end up back at your stitch marker, that's a pretty good indication that you are where you're supposed to be. All right, so here's our head flare out. And our pattern says for the next 2 rows, we're going to do 24 stitches. So like I do, I'm going to make little boxes for my 2 rows. I'm going to stitch 24 around. Yep. If you don't like having the stitch marker in at the very beginning, you can also, because sometimes it does get tangled, I usually just do 3 stitches. But you can pick whatever number you want. And then go back and add your stitch marker back in. If it gets in the way, you can always stitch a couple and then add it back in. All right, there we go. We're starting on our head here. We did 2 rows. Check these off. Now we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease 6 times. We're going from 24 down to 18. And this is kind of the beginning of this part right here. And the reason we're going down to 18 specifically is because we're going to split off in just a second and make the ears separate. And we want 9 stitches for each of the ears. So we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease 6 times. Okay, at this point, let's double check, make sure that we have 18 stitches. We're going to need them. We're going to need 18 for sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There's 18. Okay, so we finished this one. Now we're going to do 2 rows of 18 before things get a little complicated. So let's